Welcome to the Haunted Hangover podcast. I'm Louie, and as always, I'm joined by my bud Dave.
Hey.
So Dave.
So Louie.
Can you believe we've been doing this show now for a year?
I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, wow, we've fucking been recording since April of last year, and it's already April of this year. So, I mean, I can believe it, but I can't believe it.
Yeah, it's crazy how fast time flies. Like, I was like, okay, we started this show randomly, kind of.
Give a little background. I'll do it. We had, so you and our bud Tom, who's one of our best buds, who is the one of the co-hosts of the Remember the Outs podcast.
Yes.
You guys had a podcast called Anthology Obscura, where it specialized in anthology TV. It's a cool concept. Then you guys did. How many episodes did you do before I came on?
Honestly, dude, I don't even remember. It was probably like
I think it was like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And then you guys had me on as a guest, and then later on, I ended up coming on as the third co-host of the show. And then, we just had different, what's the word I'm looking for? Just different differences, like nothing, just creative differences.
No, yeah, it wasn't really working. The show wasn't working. The idea was cool, and we had a lot of fun doing it, but it was kind of hard to schedule. It was hard to kind of
Right,
put
we all
the
are
show
on different
together.
schedules, exactly. So,
yeah.
and now look, everybody has found their niche. Tom has his podcast, we have our podcast, all as well.
And even with Haunted Hangover, that was, and I think I mentioned this on our very first episode, my intent was never to have a Haunted Hangover podcast. Haunted Hangover was originally going to just be a YouTube channel, and I still do that. We still have videos that we put up on the channel and things like that, and the cocktails and all that stuff. We're still doing that. Just put one up last week.
Right.
But it's just crazy how it was kind of just on a whim. I just asked you, I was like, hey, you want to do this Haunted Hangover podcast just focusing on Halloween? And you were like, yeah. And that was it. You were just like, okay, let's do it.
It took, what's funny? I kind of knew, like, it would take, for me, I'm one of those people that, repetition, I usually get pretty good with things once I start doing, like, once I learn to get the hang of it. So I'm like, all right, it's one of those things where, how, like, when you talk, and you listen to yourself and you say like all the time. So it's like one of those things
yeah.
where like, I know I have to stop saying like. I also know I have to get better at recording and like talking to people as something I don't do all the time. So, as far as like a podcast goes, so, I kind of use that as an example of like repetition. Like, okay, I need to keep in mind, don't say like all the time, and we used to do it all the time, but I use it as an example of getting used to being on the podcast. Now, I mean, a year in, we've gotten pretty comfortable doing everything. We've I feel like we found our groove. I'm knocking on wood right here. And yeah, we're podcasters, bud.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. And we've had on some great guests. We've met a lot of people. We've some new listeners,
Absolutely.
just people that I didn't know from a hole in the wall have been like, hey, I love your show.
It's awesome.
Like seeing comments and people leaving small reviews on iTunes.
Absolutely.
If you or Apple Podcasts, I still call it iTunes, but like it's just kind of crazy how this show is developed and become such an important part of my life and your life and our friendship. And it's just kind of crazy. Time flies, and we have no intent. Like we have no intention on stopping, and we just want to keep doing this, keep talking about Halloween. Want to expand. Get Haunted Hangover to bigger and better places. We've got some ideas. We did the whole Instagram live thing, which we recently started to kind of show our faces a little more, and then
We'll be doing that more.
And same thing with the watch along videos, which we've been having fun doing, even though we need to try to move away from Are You Afraid of the Dark, because that's all we've done far.
I also am going to apologize for myself with the watch alongs, because whenever we do these watch alongs, I usually watch things like almost like with no no expression, because I'm watching it. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm watching the show, so like you don't, yeah, I'll grin or giggle, but like you're way more animated when you do the watch-alongs, and I'm just sitting there, like really intently watching. But in my head, I'm like making all these dumb jokes, so I gotta. Eventually, I'll get over that. But
you're enamored with what we're watching instead of trying to be entertaining. I guess it's tough. It's again, you evolve and you get better over time. Just like anything. But yeah, just want to thank everyone that's been listening to the show the past year. It means a lot to us. We're gonna keep trying to entertain, keep trying to get better doing this. Want to focus a little bit more on Halloween. I know we review a lot of, Halloween specials and movies and things like that. But we want to, focus on the holiday. And when it comes to the holiday of Halloween, there's one thing we really haven't done. And that's break down where Halloween came from. Like the history of the holiday. That's not really our style to kind of put together this whole... I guess essay on where Halloween came from.
And I think that's a good point to bring up because there are podcasts like it's the Always Halloween podcast. I didn't know about her podcast until this until we started doing this. And I love that it's all, quick bits of information. And I feel like all these Halloween podcasts are like kind of a piece of a puzzle. Like, so for instance, like you have the Factual Halloween podcast, you have like storytelling podcasts. Like, I feel like we're a pretty good representation of kind of like all aspects of Halloween, which is one of my favorite parts of doing this show is that we do tackle lots of different things. Yeah. Because I hate to be like and when I say this, I don't mean this towards anybody. This is just me personally talking. I don't like to be a one-trick pony. So I like to, I try to, like, even like photography, music, like I try to be as dynamic as I can and everything. So I do like that we do cover lots of stuff. And I also wanted to say, just like you did, I do want to say thank you for all the listeners. Thank you for all the friends we've made. It's been an interesting thing because I just, like, when I talk to people and I tell them, oh, I have a podcast, and then I'm like, I didn't think, like, it was going to be this time-consuming, and not that it's, like, crazily time-consuming, we just make time to do it, but it's become a staple in my, and obviously yours, your regimen, like, we record every other week, so it's... this is something that has become like I wasn't like I didn't know anything about being doing a podcast. So, and then props to the podcasts that do every week because I don't know if we'd be able to do that because we both have busy schedules. So
yeah, there's that saying like most podcasts don't get past like I think like 5 episodes or 6 episodes. Have you heard that before?
True? I never heard that. Listen, and I know you don't listen to a ton of podcasts either. And as strange as this sounds, I don't listen to a ton of podcasts. I try to curate what I find interesting and whatnot. But I did not know that podcasts don't make it past 5. That's probably just some silly thing, but.
I think it's just funny because a lot of like other podcasters, like people we've become friends with, a lot of people want to start a podcast and they think it's going to be easy, but it's not. It's
not easy
because you have to schedule it. You have to produce the show,
absolutely,
come up with the topics. If you have a guest on, if you're one of those shows that has guests, figure out who you're going to have on, why, do a little research. So it is a lot of work. And for us, it's worth it, and again, it's like you just said, it's become part of our life. So with that being said, let's get into our topic on the show today, and that is some fun Halloween facts.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, kids, you all have been so good and unbelievably patient, so I think you are going to get some candy. Yeah!
So, one fact that was very interesting to me, in my opinion, is during the 18th century, women would seek traditions that would help them find a partner or romance. Two examples of these traditions are throwing apple peels over their shoulders to see what letters the peels would form in regards to their could-be husband's initials. There would be competitive bobbing for apples in hopes of whoever won would be the first to get married. And I'm sorry, there's 3, not 2. Lastly, but not lastly, some would stay in a dark lit room with only a candle in front of a mirror to see their future husband's face. So I thought those were I never even heard of that before.
Yeah, I never heard of this either.
And I'm looking, as I'm reading this, I'm like, I can picture it all. So if I can picture it, it's usually pretty interesting to me. I could vividly picture scenes that I've never seen before in my head of how this would go down. And I was just like, wow. I was like, the fact that people would actually really do that is something. From what I understand, I'm pretty sure these do not happen anymore. I'm pretty sure they have disappeared. But again, I was just like, wow, that is a very interesting way to find love. Louis, do you have any thoughts on this or any input on this?
That whole, it's very supernatural. Wait, so this happened around Halloween or on Halloween?
During Halloween
according
time.
to what you can
right,
find.
Exactly. During Halloween
So during
time.
October.
Right.
Interesting. The whole candle.
I love that. I love that whole scene.
It is really cool.
Just sitting.
It's almost
in a room.
creepy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
you're just
Bloody Mary. It's like playing Bloody Mary and waiting for Bloody Mary to pop up. Except you're looking for the love of your life. So.
And only women did this. It wasn't men.
That's what just from what I air quotations researched. This is women that were doing these traditions, if you will.
I wonder if that's where bobbing for apples came
from. If that's the case, then that makes it even more interesting. Listen, I've only been bobbing for apples once, and it's from a memory that I've shared on the show before, where I went to a Halloween party in a garage, and that was the only time I've ever done it. That's the only time I've ever been around it. That's the only time I've ever seen it, and this is when I was fucking 11 years old. So. This was definitely not done.
I don't know
to find love, but again, this is probably where that tradition happened. Listen, I'm gonna have to do some follow up on this to see if that is where bobbing for apples came from.
It might have been because whenever you look into some of these traditions, they always come from really weird places like that. So that would make sense. It's funny going back to the whole bobbing for apple thing. I've never done bobbing for apples. I've never my entire life done it. It almost looks kind of annoying.
It's pretty
because
gross
your face
if
gets
you think
all
about
wet.
it.
Yeah. Well, now you can't do it for
disgusting.
obvious reasons, but it's just weird because I always it's almost like you're waterboarding yourself.
Yeah, pretty
you're
much.
sticking your head in water trying to grab apples. So that's it's interesting. That's an interesting fact.
Isn't there? I think there's one scene in one of the Office Halloween parties, where the character Erin is they're doing bobbing for apples, and she's under there for 5 minutes, and they think she's dead.
Yeah.
And then she comes up, she's like, I think she ate the whole apple. I could be very wrong about that, but do you know the scene?
I just watched that episode 2 days ago. Yeah, what happens is her head's in the water, and she lifts her head up, and she says, "I ate 2 apples while she was down there." That's the episode where she has that really scary mask, and she's just standing around in the background of all the shots. It's amazing.
Yeah, she's one of the best characters.
She is. Their Halloween episodes are amazing.
Always so good.
Yeah.
I hate that they and especially now, because this is not coming back this time around. You know the episode where it's a cold open where they have a haunted house in the warehouse, and Michael hangs himself. That is completely erased. If you watch on they took it off Netflix, they took it off anywhere it was streaming. I'm not sure I'm not sure if you buy it it's available, or if you buy the DVDs. I have the DVDs. I think I have that one.
Yeah.
But it's not there.
I've got to go check on YouTube and see if that clip's up there. We have to cover one of the Office Halloween
I was just
episodes
gonna say
soon. Yeah. We might have to do that real soon.
So, Lou, give me one of your picks.
So, my first fun Halloween fact is, did you know that candy corn was originally called chicken feed?
No, but I could see why it would be.
Well, look, it's supposed to look like corn.
Right,
and
it does.
I guess that's what you feed chickens.
It looks like it. I've seen a chicken feed.
Apparently, this company by the name of, and I'm going to butcher this, it's Geolitz Confectionery Company sold candy corn, and they put a rooster like on the I guess in front of like the boxes of candy corn. That's what I
love that.
Yeah, that's what I got from it. Like, that's how it was sold. So Halloween and roosters, I guess. I'm assuming that candy corn wasn't initially a Halloween item.
Probably not.
But it just kind of became a Halloween item. It's also one of the worst candies, apparently. It's always voted the worst Halloween candy every year.
And best. It's in both, because I looked this up too. It's both. It's in the top selling and the top hated.
It's crazy too, because the candy was created in 1898, and it's been around ever since. And apparently they sell, according to the articles I read, they sell about 35 million pounds of it each year. So someone is eating this shit. Somebody.
Do you like candy corn?
Yeah, I like it. Like,
I love candy corn.
I like the really good stuff. Like, they have like some of like the gourmet candy corn.
I like Brock's.
Yeah, that's like the good shit. There is like shitty candy corn that tastes like you're eating wax.
Yeah, of course.
So I kind of try to stay away from those. It's also, I think, you know what it is about candy corn that people don't like? It's not wrapped. Usually it's like
it's
just in a bowl sitting there. And I remember even as a kid when I'd go trick-or-treating, like finding candy corn loose in my trick-or-treat bag and never eating it and throwing it away because obviously you're not supposed to eat it.
That is weird. I'll tell you this. I remember going trick-or-treating, and I would get, those little paper that doesn't even make sense. Those little paper Halloween bags, those little baggies that you put you get like a fucking eraser, a pencil, some candy. I definitely got those bags filled with candy corn, which was fine by me. But to just get it loosely thrown in your pail, your bag or whatever, that is fucking weird.
I don't think they sell it like that now. I think now, like, if you go into like a store in October and you look for candy corn for trick-or-treaters, they do come in like little plastic bags.
I've actually never seen that.
But yeah, it's weird how like despised it is by like most people.
And I'll say this. Candy corn is usually the first candy that I buy come Halloween season. Usually it's like the preliminary Halloween primer for me is buying a bag of candy corn.
It's usually the first thing you see in stores too, like that time of the year. Like that's what you see. You see just bags and bags of candy corn. So again, people might hate it, but someone's buying it. It seems like people are buying it every year. Also, a weird trend I noticed was the whole candy corn flavored things like Oreos and soda, and so it's got its appeal, I guess. People do enjoy it.
I would imagine candy corn soda could taste good if done right. Like if like Jones or Boylan soda companies made like a candy corn, they probably do. I'm sure one of them does.
Jones, yeah.
I'm sure it tastes
Jones
great.
Did it a few years ago. It was pretty good. It was just really sweet.
Right, of course.
Like candy corn has such a weird taste. It's almost like, again, it's like wax, but with like a lot of sugar in it.
It definitely has a waxy taste. I love it.
Yeah, the same here. So we're not candy corn haters like everyone else.
Never.
Or like a certain amount of people that don't like the candy and think it's the worst thing ever. We don't agree.
Nope.
Hello, all my spooky spectators. It's me, Sam, here to bring you a Cocktail Cauldron Minute. Why is that, you ask? Well, Cocktail Cauldron is now reported live over on our Instagram at Haunted Hangover, and we want to keep you up to date on what we're conjuring up. Last month, we brought you the Crack Shake for St. Patrick's Day, inspired by America's favorite limited-time only Shamrock Shake. But why was it better? Get this, we made it dairy-free and with lots of booze. So, if you want to see what's on for this month, be sure to follow us on Haunted Hangover for updates. We're bringing you crafted cocktails live with our own spooky twist for all your beloved holidays. So don't miss our upcoming Earth Day cocktail on 4/20 by following our Instagram at Haunted Hangover. It's gonna be twisted. I'll see you there.
So this is a quick one. During World War II, sugar rationing put a halt to trick-or-treating, or as we would know as trick-or-treating. After rationing was over, this is what grew the tradition, like even more so for trick-or-treating, because a lot of the candy companies started ad campaigns to capitalize on this pastime. So once they stopped with the rationing, like it was like basically like an okay, like okay, now we can really like capitalize on sugar because I had heard this and it makes sense too. Because a friend of mine, and this is like one of these weird facts. Like I'm not sure how true this fact is, but it makes sense, and it's always stuck with me. He said that like a natural sugar found in the wild, like for instance, like if an animal comes across like a natural sugar, like it's such a big deal. That's why we like people like I have a huge sweet tooth, so like.
Nah, me too.
So like that's why we're drawn to sugar because technically sugar is not like. Nature-wise, sugar is not abundant.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
It's not something you easily come across. So when you come across it, you get it, you love it, you want more. So I always like... Right, that's what I'm saying. So it's just, I thought this was an interesting fact because, it makes sense.
Yeah, sugar is such an important part of Halloween, back to the whole candy thing, so it's...
You got that right.
Like, without sugar, there's no Halloween.
Pretty much. Unless you're the house that hands out pretzels and fucking pennies and
you even think about like natural like going back to the whole apples thing. Apple's a natural sugar in an apple, so it's even fruit. Even if you're handing out fruit, even though no one wants fruit on Halloween, it's still something sweet, So
yeah,
no sugar, that'd be a bad thing for Halloween.
This was a quick one. Like I said, I don't have too much on this one, but I did think it was really interesting. Louis, what's your second pick?
All right, so my next fun fact. I have a question for you before I get into it, Dave.
Please go ahead and ask.
What are the colors you think of when it comes to Halloween?
Orange and black.
Exactly. Did you know that the reason why these colors are so important are for this very reason? So, orange is a symbol of strength and endurance.
Okay.
And obviously, brown and gold means like autumn.
Okay.
Like it
Sure.
symbolizes autumn. If you think about it, that's why the whole orange thing kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
And black is usually like the symbol of death and darkness and evil.
Sure.
And that's why you have orange and black, because it's the colors of like strength and life, I guess, and then death, which is kind of what Halloween means, when you think about it.
I did not know that.
And if you like look into it, and I did a little more research, what's the Festival of Samhain? It's technically the boundaries. It's like when the line is thinnest between life and death.
The veil.
Yeah,
the veil is thinnest between the spirit world and the real world.
There you go. So it makes sense. Now, I have another little fun fact, bonus fun fact, since we're talking about Halloween colors.
Here we go.
What's another color that you think of when it comes to Halloween?
Color scheme or just one single color?
Just one single color.
See, I got two. Can I get my color scheme?
Oh, yeah. Give me the two colors.
Purple and green.
Okay, so let's stick with purple.
Okay.
So,
my favorite color.
Yes. So purple obviously is also associated with Halloween, and the reason why is because it's a more family-friendly color.
Okay.
So it's just been added to kind of soften up Halloween, because of the symbol of life and death and all that. So they just created the use of purple just as a more uplifting color to add into the whole Halloween color scheme.
That's funny that you say that, because to me, purple is a wacky color.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a wholesome family color. Purple's a wacky color to me. I love it. It's always been my favorite color. My BMX bike always has. Well, right now my grips are mint green, but my grips were purple all the time. I'd always have purple pedals or purple grips. Purple is my favorite shit. So, I
like purple.
I always think of it as like slime. Like, I always think of slime when I think of purple, or I don't know. That's just me, though.
It's interesting, too, because I remember growing up, you never saw purple anything during Halloween. Like, when we were kids, you didn't see
usually just
orange, black, and purple.
Right, it's the standard orange and black.
You never saw purple.
Right.
Purple is a more recent addition to the Halloween color scheme, I guess. Like, you don't... Like, now I think you'll see, like, little bracelets and charms, and you'll see purple jack-o'-lanterns. So... The reason behind the purple is just to make families and kids happy, because I guess orange and black mean evil. It's weird,
And just to point out, purple and green to me, and I think a lot of people, probably represents a witch, like a traditional like Halloween witch you would see. So that's also what I associate those colors with as well. And witches are probably my favorite of the beings in the Halloween world, and not just in the Halloween world, but just in anything. So that's also probably why I really like those colors.
I think of purple, when I think of witches, I think of purple as well. Like that witch, I think it's like a Looney Tunes witch.
What does Lucy from Charlie Brown Peanuts have? I think her witch mask is green, right? It's got like a wart and it's green.
She might be wearing purple as well. I think
I'm pretty sure it's green.
No, the mask is green, but I'm saying I think her hat might be purple or something like that. So those are the colors. Those are Halloween colors. But I just find it interesting how like orange and black are looked at as like too evil for kids and families.
Okay.
So they have to like push purple in there just to make people happier. It's an interesting Halloween fact.
But everyone here knows that Halloween was invented by the candy companies. It's a conspiracy.
It just so happens that Halloween is based on the ancient feast called All Hallows Eve. It's the one night of the year where the spirits of the dead can return to Earth.
Well said, Allison.
What's your next one, Dave?
So, in typical fashion of me, I'm doing a little bit of a different. This is not exactly a Halloween fact. It's more so a movie that is very, very important to us Halloween lovers. It is a fun fact about Hocus Pocus that I did not know about until yesterday. So, Hocus Pocus apparently was originally supposed to be a much darker and scarier film. I'm using that because I took that straight from the website. So air quotations there. Disney bought the script in 1984 and sat on the project for 8 years. Didn't know that either, which I think is another that is an interesting fact in itself, considering 1984. So what year was Hocus Pocus made? That was in
93.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah.
Its original title was supposed to be Disney's Halloween House. One more tidbit about Hocus Pocus was Leonardo DiCaprio was supposed to play Max Dennison, but he turned the role down to make an appearance in What's Eating Gilbert Grape. This is a little treasure trove of Hocus Pocus facts. I'll be honest, and I kind of want to hear your take on this. I would have loved to have seen Leonardo DiCaprio play Max Dennison, but honestly, I loved Omri Katz as Max. I don't think I'd have it any other way, but I think it would be interesting to have seen that if there was some sort of bizarro world out there. What's your take on that, Lou?
I think I remember hearing that Hocus Pocus was originally written as a horror film, because I think the writer of it is Mick Garris, who's a horror guy.
Yep.
So that kind of makes sense. That it was originally the concept was it leaned more towards horror. The whole Leonardo DiCaprio thing, I feel like his career would have went a completely different way if he had made Hocus Pocus instead of What's Eating Gilbert Grape. Because that's like a drama, dude. That's like a really serious movie. And I'm sure he got, if I remember correctly, a lot of notoriety for that movie. So that kind of makes sense. He was also in a Critters movie. I think Critters 3 or 4 or something like that.
Yes, he was.
So he was in a shitty movie years prior to that. So gotta cut him some slack as well. One funny thing, though, to me is the movie Lords of Salem has always reminded me of like a horror version
I have to rewatch
of Hocus Pocus, because it's in Salem. It's about a group of witches coming back, and they're fucking... People hate the movie, but like I've always liked it. But yeah, the witches come back and they wreak havoc on the women of Salem and all that stuff. It's really violent and gory. So I always thought that like Rob Zombie was trying to make like a scary version of Hocus Pocus when it comes to that movie.
Imagine if they did a Hocus Pocus reboot and had Rob Zombie direct it. I'm on board for that. I would love to watch that.
Dude, he basically did. That's what rewatch Lords of Salem and you'll see what I'm talking about.
I have to watch it. I'm not gonna lie. I went to go see it. I fell asleep.
Yeah.
But I think I fell asleep because I was tired. But either way,
I remember me mentioning it, I think, during our Salem episode.
Yep.
And you said the same thing. So you got to go back and revisit it. Again, it's a slow movie, so I could see why people weren't crazy about it. It's very different from his
I'll definitely
previous movies, because all his previous movies were like people saying they're going to skull fuck each other. And like, they're all like fucking horrible people. So in this movie, they're more human.
I'll definitely give it a rewatch.
And it's more supernatural, so it kind of works. It's more reminiscent of like Rosemary's Baby, but it always reminded me of Hocus Pocus, and I feel like the two movies would make a good double feature because of just how different and the same they are. Like you even see locations in Hocus Pocus that you see in Lords of Salem because they were both shot in Salem. So it makes sense. It makes sense. I could totally see Hocus Pocus being envisioned as a horror film originally. And it's one of the best Halloween movies of all time. So, and I know you agree with me with that.
I would love to read. Oh, absolutely. I would love to read the 1984 script, to be honest with you. That would probably be a very interesting read.
Yeah, I wonder if that's online anywhere.
I'm going to look for it. One quick take. Imagine if Leonardo DiCaprio played Marshall's character in Erie, Indiana. That would have been really cool too. That's something else I wrote down. I was like, that would be a cool little thing to see too, because I could totally see that.
Erie, Indiana's a great show. That's another fucking amazing show. That's another a show we have to cover. They have a great Halloween episode.
They do have a good Halloween episode for sure.
We've got to jump into that eventually.
And for all the listeners out there, I'm almost positive Erie, Indiana is streaming free on Amazon Prime. So if you have a Prime account, you can watch that. Don't sleep on that show. I also own the entire collection, but still. Lou, hit us with your last pick.
All right, so my last Halloween fact is, did you know there is a phobia called Samhainophobia, and it is the fear of Halloween?
People can't see me, but I'm shaking my head no. I did not know this.
Yeah, and apparently it's triggered because of the whole like people not wanting to be scared, ghosts, vampires, like basically people scared of horrific things. It's weird because if you have Samhainophobia, you're technically scared of horror movies too, I'm guessing. Like you're basically scared of anything spooky or horror related or supernatural.
It could be like people like literally scared of Samhain itself, the actual the thinning of the veil. That could be what they're literally afraid of. So maybe, you know what I'm saying? So maybe it's that aspect of it that they're only afraid of. And like, if a movie's a silly horror movie or something like that, maybe that, they're able to, to separate that. But I mean, who knows? I never heard of this until, I did see this as I was looking up facts. I just didn't look into it. But it's crazy. Like, I do know people that don't like Halloween, and maybe this is what they have and they just don't know it. I don't know. But it is very interesting.
What from what I could see online, it's apparently like just the dislike of being scared or surprised. Like,
right.
I guess like if you hate Halloween and you have Samhainophobia or Samhainophobia or whatever, however you pronounce it, you're not going into haunted houses. And going back to people that don't like Halloween, a lot of the times, like just growing up, what I noticed were it was a lot of like people that were raised in religious households. That's why.
Yeah,
they didn't, because Halloween was looked at as like the devil's holiday, and that's why they couldn't celebrate.
So the first time I've ever been to Salem, first time I wasn't like I didn't even realize it because I was young. I was like,
yeah, I remember you telling the story.
like 12 or something like that, or you know what I mean. And I had gone, and I remember. So I was with my cousin, who amazing guy. He's a deacon. So there was one shop, like over by the water part, like over by the wharf, whatever you want to call it. And I was walking into it, and he goes, "I'm not going in there." I'm like, "Why not?" He goes, "I don't like the feeling I get from there." And I was like, "Oh, okay." You know, I respect it. You know, so it's just that too. I think can maybe go back to maybe not necessarily that, but people who just kind of have a feeling about stuff, or like maybe something that's not exactly religious or whatever.
Yeah, no,
but
it's weird because looking online, apparently there are groups of people that don't leave their house on Halloween. Like, they just stay inside because they don't want to see people in costumes.
I believe it.
And it's funny because if you think about it, it's like, you know, it's mostly kids and adults that go to Halloween parties and stuff like that. But a lot of the time, kids are dressed up as, like, Black Panther and, like, Captain America. They're not even dressed up as anything scary. So it's just funny how this seems like a dated phobia.
Yeah, probably.
But apparently it's a thing, and it's still a thing. Like, there's, like, people that just, like, on Halloween stay home, lock their doors, close their windows, don't want to leave because they have this just fear of Halloween.
Right.
It's weird. It's just very weird to me. I guess just being Halloween people, like you and I, anytime I hear anyone, like, I've worked with people, and I don't know if I've mentioned this on the show. I remember working with a girl a few years ago who told me she didn't even let her daughter go to school that day. She'd keep her home.
That's crazy.
She was like, you can't go anywhere on Halloween. Like, you can't even go to school because she didn't want her daughter to see kids dressed up in costume, holding jack-o'-lantern pails and going trick-or-treating. Like, it's kind of silly. But
yeah, it is.
I guess it's a thing. Something else I want to add to this. I don't know if you even remember this, Dave, but I directed a short film called Samhainophobia about a guy who was scared of Halloween and locks himself.
Oh, yes.
He locks himself in his home and shit happens.
Yes, you do. You know what's funny? It took me a second. I was like, oh, wait, you did do that. I remember that.
Yeah, I directed that in maybe 2016, I think it was.
Yes, I do remember that.
And that was a fun short film. And the reason why I did it was because I was inspired by that same woman I just talked about who didn't allow her kid to go outside on Halloween because I just found it so odd. Like, really?
Yeah, it's crazy.
And you know what sucks for kids like that? You know those kids feel like shit because they want to go outside on Halloween and they see all the kids are having a good time.
Huge FOMO vibes.
Yeah. They're like, she's like blaming her mom. Like, my fucking mom doesn't want me to go out on Halloween, son of a bitch. Those kids
crazy FOMO.
Fucking the ultimate FOMO of just not going out, getting all this candy and putting on a cool costume. Listen, man, just because you don't like Halloween or you're scared of it or you're religious, let your kid's innocent, man. He or she just wants to go out and enjoy Halloween. That's it.
On Samhain. Yes. To all of you dumb Christians out there, that's a day in my honor, commonly known as Halloween.
So we're going to put up a questionnaire on our Instagram, and we want to hear your facts or tidbits about Halloween that we don't know about or anyone else doesn't know about. So please hit us on the Instagram.
And before we close out the show, we just want to say thank you again to everyone that's been listening to us the last year.
Yep, we're very grateful for everyone that has given us their attention and time. We really do have a lot planned going forward, so expect all the same content and expect all the antics of Louie and I as we go even further into this Halloween world.
And with that being said, be sure to subscribe, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Haunted Hangover.
And if you can rate and review us, that'd be greatly appreciated.
And remember, the best cure for a hangover is
more booze.
Later, guys.